Hi folks, it's your EGYPTONERD here, and this week we'll be pulling an Evie and dealing with mummies. While mummies might look grisly to us today, they reflect the Egyptians' hope for a life beyond death. The origins of mummification are a bit speculative, but speculate we shall. If you remember last week, I said that in Egyptian prehistory, elites were buried in pit graves. The heat and desert sands quickly dried out the bodies, naturally preserving them. Maybe some of these bodies were later exposed through shifting desert or animals or digging new graves, and this could have inspired the idea that the afterlife is connected to bodily preservation. Maybe. As burial practices became more complex, coffins and burial chambers separated corpses from the desert, meaning that this natural preservation couldn't really happen anymore. This may have prompted the Egyptians to develop artificial ways of preserving bodies. But what's so important about preserving bodies anyway? The Egyptians saw a person as being composed of various aspects, and in order to survive beyond death, each of these aspects had to be preserved or revived. The body was one of these, hence the need for mummification. But Ed, we want to hear some gross stuff. Fine. Music change? Methods of mummification changed over time and various practices could coexist at once, but here's an overview of your top-end mummification. The body was first washed in a dilute solution of natron salt to purify it in both ritual and practical terms, since in the Egyptian sun, dead things don't stay fresh for very long. This is where it gets a little gross. Through a very delicate procedure, a hole was made in the nasal cavity and the brain was pulled out. You then might stuff some linen and sawdust up in there. The Egyptians saw the heart rather than the brain as the seat of intelligence, so you didn't really need the brain after death. A blade of flint or obsidian was then used to make an incision in the left of the abdomen, through which the stomach, intestines, liver and lungs were removed. These were embalmed separately and buried with the body in canopic jars. The heart was left in place as that's where your thoughts and memories are, and it's the heart that gets judged to decide whether you're worthy to enter the afterlife. The body cavity was then washed and filled with linen packages containing natron salt, which was also heaped on top of the exterior of the body. This was done to dry it out to prevent further decay. After about 40 days, the natron was removed and the body was packed with linen, sawdust and aromatic substances to give it a more lifelike appearance and also to make it smell better. The body was then ritually anointed and wrapped. Wrapping protects the body physically and also spiritually, as wrapping was practiced on sacred images, something which the body has essentially been turned into. Amulets were tucked into the wrapping to give this protection a magical kick. The mummy might then be given a funerary mask, which is an idealized image of the deceased intended to carry into eternity. It's for this reason that some mummies have prosthetic body parts, essentially photoshopped for the next world. At the funeral itself, a ritual called the opening of the mouth ceremony was performed on the mummy, which restored the body's faculties and made the person functional in the next world, with almost no undead consequences. So that's a brief skip through mummification. I hope you're not too grossed out. Be sure to subscribe, like and all that, and tune in next week for more ancient Egyptian escapades. I'm your EGYPTONERD, and remember, there's always more to discover.